boy, it's very late in the day that we're now sending the type of hardware that Ukraine really needs to be able to push back Russia. So well done to the United Kingdom, first of all, for being at the forefront of pushing this envelope on increasing the lethality of equipment that's sent to Ukraine from the West. We sent those challenges, and now we're seeing Abrams and Leopard main battle tanks starting to arrive, hopefully soon as well. I should stress there's an understandable spotlight on hardware, given the gridlock in the fighting, possible spring offensive. But we've all seemed to become armchair generals, experts in what military equipment needs to be slid across the table. It's not just tanks, I should stress. For the full military orchestra, you need air assets, such as Patriots, that will stop the Russian formidable air force from patrolling the skies. You need long-range fires, the long-range missiles, to push Russian ground troops back into Russia mainland. And of course, you then need those tanks and artillery to be able to seize and hold ground, punch through the Russian defenses that are dug in around the Donbass. All these issues need to be agreed. But the bigger question, I'm afraid, all this is tactical, is strategic. What does success look like? What is the overall mission? How are we going to provide the security that Ukraine needs in the long term? I'm afraid these are the tough questions that the West refuses still to answer.
Yeah. So in terms of the UK's supply of those Challenger 2s, you sort of pointed out that the UK's equipment is fairly old, that the number of tanks we have is set to be reduced. And some might question sort of how long we can continue to support Ukraine. We know that that's important, but we need to look at the situation here in the UK, really, in terms of what we can spare and what that means for our contribution.
You are right. I mean, we've enjoyed 30 years of relative peace. And during that time, we've whittled down our land warfare capability, not just our tanks, our armored fighting vehicles, our recce vehicles as well. Many of these bits of kit are over 20, 30, or even 50 years old. Now, there is a plan to upgrade them, but it's very slow indeed and won't be completed until 2030. The world's more dangerous now. So I hope the new integrated review, or the refresh as it's been called, will address this. But how many have we got to give to Ukraine? We could probably give more than a single squadron, or just 14 tanks. But ultimately, it's more symbolic. It's about opening up the possibility of Leopards being sent there. This is 80% of the tanks across NATO are the German design. So I do hope that we will see some hardware arrive. But as I say, it's only one element of what's required on the ground there, and all coming very late in the day, because Russia's ability to endure hardship is far greater than ours. They want to drag this out as long as possible, possibly as long as until the next US election, when they're perhaps hoping that Donald Trump will turn back on the scene and how life might be different then. So it's important that 2023 is seen as the year that we break this deadlock with the necessary hardware for Ukraine to be able to push back. And then, as I say, start to address those more difficult questions. We can't keep sliding kit across to Ukraine ad infinitum. That's unsustainable. Bradleys, Leopards, Challengers, Abrahams, all these supply chains, all with different types of ammunition. I promoted the idea that we create a weapons factory inside Poland so Ukraine can build its own kit. So we're not doing this in 5 years' time.
You've also cautioned the non-alignment of Western leaders on tanks up to today anyway. And we've seen, haven't we, the commitment by the US, the commitment by Germany and other nations following suit as well. But in the lead up to this, it's hardly been a sort of coordinated effort, has it?
It's not. And I think Russia, Putin will be enjoying seeing the differences of opinion. People are coming from different angles. The United States, domestically, they're still looking at this as very much a European problem. Germany, historically, is having to, culturally understand where it's going, given what happened twice in the last century. Very, very difficult cultural challenges to get through. But ultimately, the penny still hasn't dropped that this isn't just about Ukraine. This is about Russia returning to type, wanting to expand its influence over Slavic Europe. I make it very clear that Russia now is the most disruptive, destabilizing force in all of Europe now. We need to be moving to a sense of war footing to be able to regroup, reassess how we stand up to Russia, as well as putting this fire out in Ukraine. Our mindset is still not there. We're still talking about shiny things to send across the table, to President Zelensky.
We had a NATO expert on a couple of days ago who suggested that Olaf Scholz's delay in committing Leopard 2s and allowing other nations to provide theirs was because Germany wasn't necessarily interested in Ukraine winning the war or Russia winning the war. The preferred outcome for Germany, he suggested, was some sort of middle ground where there was perhaps mutual territory agreement, or there was a split in territory. And I thought that was an interesting take. I don't know whether you've got an opinion on that, whether that might be the reason why Germany stalled for so long on this.
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all. I spent a lot of time speaking with my German counterparts, and as I say, culturally, the German people are very reticent about seeing an expansion of their own Wehrmacht or their armed forces, given their history. So there is a hesitance there of seeing Germany overexposed. Sometimes in wars, a particular weapon system comes to define that war. Napalm, for example, in Vietnam. And I think Germany was concerned that the Leopard tank used by 80% of NATO would become that defining weapon system and then perhaps shine too much light on Germany itself. So waiting for the United States to catch up with its thinking, send those Abrams tanks as well to provide more of a sense of a united force in supporting Ukraine.